Oh, I'm in a bit of a 2 and 8 this afternoon. Hello everyone. Suddenly feels really warm and muggy. I'm in the garden, obviously. I'm in the shed, just trying to get organised for some seed sowing. I feel a bit weepy today, I'll be honest with you, because I'm struggling with this garden this year. I'm going to be honest because, you know, I believe in honesty. Yeah, I'm really... Oh, that's rusty. I think that's upset me as well. He's having a little... Oh, I've just realised what it is. I feel like I should start again. Okay, deep breath. I've got a poly bag outside the shed, and it's from home, and it's where I've had little pots that I was starting seeds in that didn't germinate, and I've tipped them out into the poly to use in the garden. I'm not going to re-sow in those little pots, just tip it. But also, he's going nuts for it. I'm going to try and show you. Hang on a tick. Of course, he's stopped rocking himself on it now. In there, so like I said, that's compost I'm bringing to the garden to use and just put on the garden anywhere. But of course, I pricked up my catnips, didn't I? The little catnip plants. And in pricking them out, I lost a few. They sort of snapped, broke. So they're in there to add to compost. There's that nice body, but he's in a... Oh, don't scratch that side of your face. The other side of his face that you can't see, his left cheek. Oh, and off he goes. Well, he had a nice little... At least flattened that bag. Well, I know my catnip works. Okay, so what I was trying to say, yeah, his face is... the left cheek is awful, and I think seeing that as I've come in today has upset me too. I mentioned, I think it was about, well, it may be 8-9 days ago that he'd had the fight, and it must have happened just before I got to the pot because it was just a little bit bloody, bit of blood on his cheek. The next time I saw him was 2 or 3 days later, and his cheek was a mess. And I wasn't down for a few days, but Kay's been keeping an eye on him too, and she said that it had been cleaned up. Great. I've just seen it today. I mean, there's a hole in his cheek. It's awful. I mean, I'd say it needs stitching, but it needs packing before it needs stitching. It's an absolute mess. I mean, you wouldn't believe it from the way he's just cuddled on that. So that's upset me seeing it. And yeah, back to let's just be completely brutally honest about this. As I get things ready, I need to get some seeds underway. This is how messy I feel everything is at the moment. I haven't even sorted my calendula seed. They've just been in the shed. This was for drying. This would normally come home. I'd sort the wheat from the chaff, as it were, over the winter. Things just haven't been happening. And, oh my goodness. It's like I refuse to feel sorry for myself, but I'm just really frustrated with, you know, it's been a rubbish start to the year, just in terms of health and then my back and and I'm struggling. I'm finding it more and more difficult even to walk here, just to get here, never mind do the garden. So it's really behind. Everything's way behind where I wanted it to be. We're now coming to the end of the second week in May. I haven't sown anything. It's ridiculous. I think I've got time to catch up. But I need to get sowing right now and sow absolutely kind of everything. So everything I can direct. So to start with today, I'm going to go out and sow carrots. I'm going to do parsnips. I'm going to do half the parsnips direct. I'm going to do the other half in loo rolls. I've got my loo rolls there. See, now I've got a limited amount of compost. I'm bearing in mind everything I want to do today. Do I do half the parsnips in loo rolls, or do I just do them all direct? What's the most important crop for me to have? I'm going to have a think about that. I'll do one row direct, and leave the other row, and I will either do them in the loo rolls or do them direct. The reason I'm kind of going, ooh, maybe, maybe not, is because the loo rolls will take up quite a chunk of the compost, and it's an experiment. Do I want to use my compost for an experiment? So parsnips, carrots, and then also, do you remember I've got the leftover little onion sets, plus all 4 that came for me from seed. I'm actually going to sow them, plant them with the carrots, because they're a great companion plant. The smell of the, oh God, Rusty's just walked past again, his face, awful. I don't know what to do. I think I'm getting to that stage of, if his owners don't sort it out, I'm going to get him to the RSPCA. I don't know how to do that. I'll have to think about it. He's going to have a little nibble. Onions, the smell of onions wards off the carrot fly. The smell of the carrots wards off the onion miner. So, in theory, I mean, I always have my carrot beds next to my onion beds anyway, but I thought, yay, why not intermingle them? Although, no, I'm not going to intermingle them. I'll explain why when we get out to the garden. So, those are those bits and bobs. I would like, clatter, 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 I'd like my row markers. Yeah, row markers. Oh my goodness, look, look how filthy I left that. That's very bad, Vivi. My trowel. So this is what I tried to do. I tried to have a think in the shed. Have I got everything I need? Rather than coming backwards and forwards to the shed all the time. Seed row markers. My gloves are already out there. My trowel, the dibber. Now what I've done as soon as I've arrived just now is, we did have some rain yesterday. Yay, we finally had a bit of rain. And I might see if I can get another bed dug today. We'll see. So we've had rain, which is great, but what I've just done when I've arrived is I've just, the 2 beds I'm going to do now, I've just watered again, just quite lightly, just to dampen the surface, because it had dried out on the surface already. And where I'm going to put the parsnips and calendula, just before I actually go and make the drills, I'm just going to bash it down a bit finer with the rake again, because it's still quite lumpy. The carrot bed will be fine for me to just make my drills into. So I think we should probably go and get on with that. It's a little bit breezy today, so there might be some wind sounds, and the sun's coming out, it's going in, it doesn't know what it wants to do. I think it's like me today. But you know, I think some days are like this, some years are like this. I just feel thwarted every few minutes. And honestly, do you know, I'm going to have to sit down now. Hang on, I'm going to turn you around and sit us down. So I sort of need to give myself a talking to, I think, because I was thinking about it last night, thinking about the garden last night and getting down here and getting on. It's just sort of dreading it, really. And, you know, coming to the garden shouldn't be like that. But like I said, it's partly because even just walking here these days, it's painful, it's nasty, it's horrid. Fingers crossed when I move, I can move closer. But, you know, and then I turn into the garden and I think, oh my God, there's so much work to do. There is quite a lot of work to do in terms of the 6 beds to go, but the big thing is there's masses. I've got to do all my seed sowing, and then of course I walk down the path and there are yet more black fly in the broad beans that need nipping out. A ton of my peppers have been nibbled in the cold frame while I've not been here these last few days, and there is that moment of just like, oh. And last night I'd been thinking, even before seeing all that, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this much longer, this gardening lark, or certainly not in this way. But of course, I'm going to get upset. Now, the minute I think like that, I think, no, I can't bear to let this garden go. I kind of love it, but it hurts me. So, and yeah, this year I just feel like I haven't been able to get going. You know, the minute I start to get going, I'm knocked back by something else. And I'm not, like I say, it's not a pity party, it's just facing facts. The fact is, I don't know what the date is today, 11th, 12th of May, and nothing is sown. That is ridiculous for my part of the UK. So, I don't want to be doom and gloomy. If you're feeling like me too, let's just see. Let's give ourselves till the end of May, hey? Let's just give ourselves the next couple of weeks to see what we can get done and see if we can get things done. And then, you know, I never make decisions hastily. I never make a decision overnight. And I'm not about to say, right, that's it, can't do the garden anymore. Maybe this is just a bad year. Maybe next year will be better. But yeah, let's all try for now. Really try hard. Let's see what we can do in the next 2 weeks and see if we can kind of claw the garden back. That's certainly not going to happen. Oh, poor little body. That's certainly not going to happen if we don't put seeds either into the ground or later on into pots and modules and trays, what have you. So, I'll take you out there in a second, but first of all, I'm going to go back up the garden path, bash down the parsnip bed a bit, and yeah, let's see if I can get a tilth going on, and let's just go and get some seeds in the ground, for goodness sakes. Okay, so this is going to be the carrot bed. You see the chard at the end, that will come out and that's going to be courgettes. And what I'm thinking is 4 rows of carrots. I was thinking of doing carrot, onion, carrot, onion, carrot. However, if I should have another, it would be my 3rd no carrot year. If I've got no carrots, but there's onions dotted amongst them, it'd be kind of hard to plant something else in to replace it. So I thought I'm going to do the onions all in a square at that end, and 4 little rows, and then all the carrots. So then, if the carrots fail, it's more adaptable. I can plug in whatever I want. But what I'm going to do at this top end to mark where the carrot rows are, so I know where to look and hope, is to use my 4 onions from seed at this sort of top end. Like I said, as row markers almost. Now, I don't know how, I'm not sure how long to make these carrot rows. Once upon a time I would have done this whole bed with carrots, but having had 2 total fail years now, I'm sort of a bit put off. So I think I'm just going to pop these onions out, see how many I've got to fill up. I don't want to go much further that way because when I come to dig out the chard, they've got really quite sturdy roots, so I really have to dig them out. It would disturb the onions. And shall I do the 4? No, I'm not going to do the 4 that have already sprouted. I'll do 4 that are good and tight. So, well, it's worth an experiment, isn't it? So that will be another 8 red, another 8 white, the 4 white across the top, and then with the leftovers, well, who knows, maybe I might find other odd little gaps in the next day or 2. Otherwise, if it gets, hold on, let's come around the other side. If it gets, to be honest, I think today is it's their last chance saloon for these onions, because after today, you know, it's really going to be too late for planting. Well, too late for planting in terms of getting a harvest early enough to then be able to get them out and follow them on with something, which is what I would do with the main ones. They'll be followed by winter brassicas. That's the thing, isn't it? It's about planning the bed, sort of planning both for failure, planning for the carrots to fail. I don't mean that. I'm not sort of being negative. Well, I am feeling very negative today. Honestly, I'm going to try and be a bit more positive as the afternoon progresses. But yeah, let's just say that if the carrots do fail, how can I make the most of this bed anyway? So by putting the onions out of the way a bit, that's nearly a little over a square metre. I could get 1, 2, possibly even squeeze 3 tomatoes in there and 3 in here. I could just about get 6 tomatoes in this space if the carrots fail. I could get another one. Pushing it for 2 courgettes, but I could probably get 2 courgettes in. So yeah, I'm planning for failure but hoping for success with the carrots this year. Right, let's get seeding. Right, let's make a start with these sown ones. And I did have a look the other day. I did pick them up to look to see that, oh my goodness, roots, they're gagging to go out. So, despite what felt like quite a lot of rain yesterday, it's all still really dry. So, oh my goodness, that one's falling apart on me. Get the hole ready first, Vivi. Let's move that one. It's not falling apart. So yeah, despite, oh my goodness, this wind, nothing's playing fair today. Yeah, despite all that rain, the top of the ground has dried out really quickly. Obviously things in pots and what have you are pretty dry. So yeah, don't be lulled into a false sense of security by what looks like a really heavy shower. Do check your soil. So like I said, I've given it a sprinkling already. The thing about carrot seed, when I come to put them in, they're so fine. What I don't want to do is give it a really good soaking afterwards and wash them away anywhere. So, and even now, just in the time it's taken to get organised with my lines, my drills, I've popped those other onions in already. In that time you can see how it's all, can you see? I don't know how much it picks up, but it is starting to dry out again. So I will, before I get the carrot seed out, I'm going to give it another sprinkle of water. I'm going to be sowing my old favourite, which is Autumn King. It is a great, I'm going to get it out without disturbing it too much. Really wanted to go in. Yeah, it's a great carrot for later in the year, Autumn King. And when it grows, if it grows, please grow this year, it stores perfectly well in the soil. So I only harvest them as and when I need them. There's never that kind of one moment of doing the whole harvest and then having to do something with them to preserve them, whether it's, you know, chopping them all up and freezing them or putting them into a tray of damp sand and all these other various techniques you'll have heard about for storing carrots. Literally, they store in the garden and that's it. And I can have them like that and have them all the way through to the following March, even into April. So for example, if this was last year, if they'd worked last year, where would there have been carrots last year there? If they had worked last year, I would have been taking them out, the last ones out a couple of weeks ago, in order to prep the bed for whatever's coming this year. Okay, so I quite like the idea that the 4-seed sown onions are acting as markers for these rows of please, please, please carrots. I'm not going to show you sowing, you know how to sow seeds. The thing with carrots is I will sprinkle them and try to sow them as thinly as possible to save on thinning later, because in the process of thinning, the scent that's released can attract the carrot root fly in, but also in yanking one out, disturbing the one next to it, damaging the carrot that's staying in, make it fork. If I do have to do any thinning, I never do it by pulling them out. I always do it by just snipping the plant off at soil level so that there's no disturbance to that precious tiny root next door to it that's staying in to hopefully become a nice big robust carrot for the winter. I should say with Autumn King, they are a really hearty carrot. They're not something I would have necessarily raw in a salad in the summer. They're a really strong flavour. They can get a little bit woody, but that's because I leave them in so long. But if they're blitzed up in a soup, you don't notice. And the thing, I mean, I use them for winter cooking, so stews and soups. And the thing with the stew is, because they've got that quite long cooking time, they don't turn to mush. They do soften up a bit, but they don't turn to mush because they are, quite sturdy. But also that flavour is so sort of such. I always come back to this word robust. That robust flavour, it really holds its own even in a long cooking time. Right, I'm going to get the carrots in, and then we're going to move down there, and hopefully that parsnip bed. I've just watered it again. Let some water in. Oh, I'm looking for my seeds. There we go. Good old Autumn King. Yeah, and hopefully that bed, after I've finished doing this, that bed will be ready for another bashing down to get a little bit of a better till. So I will see you down in the other bed. Because this is the calendula. It's not sorted, wheat and chaff, as it were. So I'm just going to put it in liberally. Exactly as would happen if nature just got on with it. More like a sort of, sorry, I'm crinkling the bag, more like a sort of self-seed job. There's stalks and everything in here. Oh my goodness, that is liberal. Maybe not quite so. I've decided with the parsnips, you can see I've prepped 2 drills. I'm going to sow them. I'm going to sow a load direct and just maybe 20 in the loo roll tubes. I just don't have enough compost to experiment with more than that. I mean, I can go and get more compost, of course I can, but now each time I'm coming to the garden, I'm carrying bags of plants with me. I don't have another hand free for carrying compost, so yeah, I'll pop the parsnips in a moment. When it's all sown, obviously I'm going to cover them over again, give them another bit of water, and then all the wire mesh is going to come back on the top to stop the cats from scratching. Oh, good. Well, that is carrots and parsnips in terms of edibles and the calendula. Calendula is important to me, it's my beauty regime. So I'm glad they're done. Now I need to launch into some seed sowing, but I'm just trying to get a bit organised because I've taken a lot of, in February, beginning of March, I took a lot of pots home for starting my seed, starting at home. And the trays, obviously the non-dripping, the trays without holes, gravel trays. Now, at home, I have finally been able to prick out, I'm saying the celery, the tomatoes. I didn't have enough pots to do the tomatoes, the bigger pots, so I knew I had these down here, but I thought I had more of this sort of 10 centimetre size. That one's no good. So, as part of my next little run of bits this afternoon, what I'm starting to do, I'll show you, is gather all my trays and modules. Now normally at the end of the season, September, October or so. Well, normally what I would do is as the season goes on, so June through, as I'm planting things out into the garden, as I'm emptying pots or emptying, you know, sort of cell trays, that sort of thing, take them home, wash them, bring them back. They all get stacked in pot size order, that sort of thing, and they all get stacked very neatly in my built-in system in the shed. It didn't happen last year. Last year really went a bit funny, let's just say that. So I think part of my slight discombobulation at the moment is the shed's a mess, I'm hunting for things, so that's my next job now, is to just get all of these bits out and ready. Check that I'm happy that I've got enough of everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's going to be enough trays. All of these trays, like I said, they're the seed trays, so they're the ones with. Does that show? You can't see, can you? They've got holes. There we go. Drainage holes. Now that's great if they're out and we're getting day after day after day after rain. That's what I want, because I want the water to drain out. However, that's not what we're getting. So I also brought with me today two compost sacks that I've had at home that I've been using for all my indoor starts. The empty sacks I've brought with me, and I'll do the same as, oh my goodness, I did in January, was it? When I sowed the onions and the sweet peas and things. Just cut a bit out. Snails. I'm very displeased with the snails at the moment in the cold frame. But yeah, just simply cut it out. Not going to work in the wind today. Pop it into my tray like that. And obviously once there's either pots or modules in that, it'll hold the plastic down. But then that will act as a waterproof tray. Not waterproof, what's the word for it? A non-draining tray, a gravel tray. Oh, I'm struggling today. So, yeah, get those cut today too. Tossing up ideas. Part of me is thinking just get them all filled with compost today, and if I can't do any more today, go home, come back and seed them tomorrow, because all the compost will be ready. But then it might dry a bit in the shed overnight. Right. Okay, so chaos. They don't need to come home. I'm going to have a little count up, see if that's enough for my tomatoes at home. Other bits and bobs that are knocking around. Just get it sorted so I can get on with this. Get on with this garden for this year. Oh my goodness. Oh, my chair's wobbly. Right, yeah. Pots, trays, what have you sorted. This is the remainder of the calendula. I'm going to get it out of that bag, tip it out of just a tiny bit of a sort, and put it in my jar with my. This must be last year's seed. It'll be fine. So I said right at the top of the video, I've just seen a magpie do a massive poo. Thanks, onto my wheelbarrow handle. Two for joy though. It's like a little pair of sentries waiting for me to go down that path. Yeah. Look, I said at the top of the video that I wasn't feeling it today, or that I was feeling sort of, I felt really weepy and just not myself. Life's been just too stressful in the last couple of weeks or so. And quite often when I come to the garden, it fixes me, it heals me, it sorts me out. And like I said right at the top of the video, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Sorry, there we go. You're on a wonk. Yeah, I'm always going to be honest, and I've got, I'm sort of 3 hours after arriving. I definitely feel a bit better. I feel better for having got the carrots and the parsnips in. But I ain't jumping for joy. I'm not my usual chirpy self. The reason I'm mentioning this is, again, I just have to point out, because otherwise the trolls will jump down my throat. No, it's not about a pity party. And honestly, how often do I make a video and where I'm not grinning from ear to ear and being silly about things and what have you? The reason I'm mentioning it today is because I know that some of you will feel a similar way to how I'm feeling today, either whether it's the garden, whether it's whatever it is. Sometimes we're overwhelmed by other stuff, and then our emotions are just get unsettled, and those things that normally bring us joy, they're not really bringing us the joy, just because there's so much happening and so much coming at us from all directions. The thing with the garden is, like I say, quite often it'll chirp me up again. But even if it doesn't, on a day like today, this is one of those days where, and this is what I'm sharing, is sometimes we just need to force ourselves to carry on and go through it. I don't mean necessarily with physical injuries. We shouldn't force ourselves physically if we're really, knees, backs, all that kind of thing. But I think sometimes emotionally, if we're either hurting or grumpy, whatever it is, and we really, really don't feel like doing the garden, it's to force ourselves, just to force ourselves to do it, because it might be just the medicine we need. And you know what, even if it doesn't cheer us up, force ourselves to do it anyway, because it's kind of time dependent. Can't just keep leaving it. Can't just wait until, maybe in a couple of weeks' time I'll be feeling all cheerful again. Hey, my little friend, here comes Rusty again. He's been having a snooze. Yeah, in 2 weeks' time I might be like, yay, I'm all bouncy and cheerful. I've got no stress going on in my life. Yeah, let's get stuck into the garden. It'll be too late. I need to do it now. So yeah, just have to have faith in ourselves somehow, don't we, to just do it. I was thinking about it that, in a couple of days' time, we're going to have a community work party day. Again, it's come around so quickly. I don't know whether I'll be offering my hours on this occasion. It would be the first one I've missed in years, but I just don't know whether to reserve my knees for me and my garden. Anyway, we'll see. But also on that day, we're having a plant swap day. That's how ridiculous things are for me this year. We're having a plant swap in 2 days. I haven't even got the seeds in. I wonder if I'll place a bet on myself for the year. Look, I'll have a garden. It'll just be quite a bit later. So, the plan now, like I said, I have forced myself. I feel a little bit better, but not myself. So I've got everything pretty much. I'm just going to do a final check. I've done a load off camera as well to get everything ready for a mammoth seed sowing session. What I've done is I've put myself in a position where I'm ready to hit the ground as soon as I come to the garden tomorrow. I'd like to come first thing in the morning, but I've got an appointment that's right in the middle of the day. So I'll come in the afternoon as soon as my little legs will carry me here. And literally from the second I get here, boom, seed sowing. I've got a list, I've got all my trays, I've got everything organised, size-wise, number-wise, what have you. I didn't fill them all with compost yet. That does take a bit of time to fill everything with compost. I'm not going to do it now because it really will dry out and I'll be doing myself a disservice. But it's planned. It's all planned out. So, for instance, with the module size, pot size, I know which seeds are going in which size. I've got everything lined up in terms of the seeds on the counter. For now, I will put them back in my metal tin overnight, just in case there are any curious little mice in my shed at the moment. I don't think there are. And I'll get this back properly Oh, jeepers, I hope I haven't made you all miserable. Please, if I've made you miserable, don't write in and complain, because you'll make me even more miserable. It's a lesson, isn't it? That even when you're not doing handstands, you need, if you're relying on your garden for food, you can't be having days where you go, oh, I feel sorry for myself, I'm going to stay at home and cuddle a hot water bottle. No, get to the garden, get on with the work, it needs doing. Vivi, get on with it. I'll see you again really soon, and yeah, I'll be chirping with the birds next time I see you. So until then, please look after yourselves, try and push through when the mood ain't quite right, and maybe, just maybe, that bit of time in the garden will lift you up again. I hope so. Lots of love to you all, and see you soon. Cheerio.